When you talk about the great Italian director Bernardo Bertolucci, you have to understand that for him, film wasn't just a job, it was basically a map of his own mind. His movies were this deeply personal and, yeah, often turbulent exploration of his life, his politics, and his own psychological conflicts, all just played out on the big screen. So let's dive into this master filmmaker's incredible journey. This quote right here, it gets to the very heart of who he was. For Bertolucci, cinema wasn't just a passion, it was a complete and total obsession. It was the language he used to figure everything out, the world, himself, you name it. So to really get a handle on his evolution, we're gonna follow this roadmap. We'll trace his career through 5 really distinct phases, from being this young filmmaker trying to find his voice, to becoming a global icon who is still grappling with his own legacy. All right, so let's start back in the 1960s. It was this whirlwind of cultural change, right? And you've got a young Bertolucci who's trying to find his own artistic voice, but he's kind of standing in the shadow of some absolute giants. He was basically caught between 2 massive cinematic titans. In one corner, you've got the Italian poet turned director Pier Paolo Pasolini, the guy who gave him his first big break. And in the other corner, all the way over in Paris, you've got the French New Wave revolutionary Jean-Luc Godard. And this was a real artistic tug of war. From Pasolini, he got this beautiful, poetic neorealism, a style that was all about finding the tragedy and beauty in the gritty lives of the working class. But then from Godard, he got this jolt of radical energy. You know, the jump cuts, the in-jokes for movie lovers, and this fiercely political edge. And you can totally see this conflict playing out in his early movies. He even said it himself, that films like Before the Revolution were a way for him to exorcise his own demons. The anxieties of this well-off Marxist who was terrified of being pulled back into his comfortable bourgeois roots. Okay, this brings us to a huge turning point. The end of the 60s was this moment that would give him a brand new tool, one that would help him resolve all these conflicts and finally find his own truly unique voice. So picture this, it's 1969. He's getting ready to make a film about a son investigating his father's complicated past. And right at that moment, Bertolucci starts psychoanalysis. This collision of his personal therapy and his professional work, well, it was about to unleash his most powerful creative period ever. And he put it best himself. Psychoanalysis wasn't just about healing for him. It became a new tool in his director's toolkit. He called it a Freud lens, one that let him zoom right in on dreams, memory, and the subconscious. So here's the key transformation. He saw his early films as these kind of closed-off monologues. It was almost like he was just talking to himself. But after 1969, they became these powerful dialogues, and they finally connected with a massive international audience. And this newfound psychological depth, when you combine it with an absolutely stunning visual style, well, that's what led to his most acclaimed and definitely his most controversial period. You literally cannot talk about this era without talking about his legendary partnership with the cinematographer Vittorio Storaro. I mean, together, these two forged a visual style that was so distinct, it became their signature. It influenced generations of filmmakers. So what did that actually look like on screen? Well, we're talking about these incredibly fluid, sweeping camera movements, lighting that literally painted with shadow and color, and editing that could leap between the past and the present in the blink of an eye. It was a total sensory experience. But this wasn't just style for style's sake. No way. He used this powerful visual language to tackle some incredibly provocative themes. A film like The Conformist uses that style to mirror a character's mental breakdown under fascism. While Last Tango in Paris, well, it explored sexuality in a way that just shocked the entire world. The success and, the notoriety of those films, it just propelled Bertolucci into the next phase of his career. We're talking ambitious, grand-scale, international productions. But it wasn't a straight shot to the top, not at all. His massive 5-hour Marxist epic, 1900, was a commercial disaster. His next couple of films showed this growing disillusionment with politics. And for a while, it really seemed like he was lost in a creative wilderness. But then, he came roaring back. He emerged with The Last Emperor, this sweeping English-language epic that was actually filmed on location in China's Forbidden City. It's the story of a man caught in the tidal wave of history, a classic Bertolucci theme, but now presented on the absolute grandest scale you can imagine. And the result? Just 9. A complete, total sweep at the Academy Awards. 9 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. Bertolucci wasn't just an Italian master anymore. He was a global cinematic emperor. Now, this massive global success led to the final, really fascinating phase of his career, one where that grand sweep of history turns inward, leading to a cinema of intimacy and ultimately of isolation. You can see this really clear shift. His early heroes were always wrestling with big ideas, politics, revolution, society, but his later characters, they're often turning their backs on all that, seeking refuge from the world in these private spaces, as if all those old political dreams had just crumbled into dust. Think about films like The Sheltering Sky or Stealing Beauty. The characters are these wanderers and artists who have consciously retreated from the chaos of the world, trying to find shelter in a remote desert or a quiet Tuscanville. And this idea is captured perfectly in his 2003 film, The Dreamers. He actually returns to the defining political moment of his youth, the May '68 riots in Paris, but he tells the story through three young movie lovers who lock themselves away in an apartment, creating their own little world, while history literally explodes right outside their window. So, when you really step back and you look at his entire career, it's like one long, sprawling cinematic autobiography. He put all of his internal battles with his mentors, with his politics, with his own subconscious, right up there on the screen for all of us to see. From the streets of a revolution to the quiet of an isolated room, his entire body of work was born from conflict. And it leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. Is that internal struggle, that war within the self, is that what's essential for creating truly great and lasting art?